Good morning. If you'd like, we'd like to get started on our proposed half-cent sales tax infrastructure and improvement plan. I'm Wilmer Stafford, Walton County Public Works Director. And if you would allow me, I'd like to start to my right and introduce everyone that's been involved in helping get this plan put together. We have Derek McCullen, Budget Analyst, Chance Powell, Traffic Operations, Charlie Cotton, Stormwater, Buddy Wright, who will be presenting, and also our Work Program Manager. We have Melissa Thompson, the Finance Director, Anna Hudson, Staff Engineer, and also Cindy Price, Staff. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Buddy to present.
Thank you, Wilmer. Just like to welcome everyone this morning. And what we're going to do is just go through a brief slideshow, just basically explain how we got where we're at and present what we've come up with. And after we get through with the slideshow, we'll certainly entertain any questions anybody has. So with that being said, we'll get right into the meat of it. What I wanted to do first is just start and explain to everybody how we got to where we're at. So back on January the 11th, 2017, there was some discussion at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, and the board was approached on a half-cent sales tax covering infrastructure needs for the county. So there was some discussion took place on, putting together a long-term plan to fund needed infrastructure improvements. So at that point, the Public Works was asked to, research the issue, and at that time it was more Melissa researching the referendum question on, what it would pertain to. So on April 11th, Melissa reported back to the board, and the requirements of the half-cent sales tax for infrastructure, talked about the referendum, and the board directed us to create a project list of, how this money would be spent and what kind of infrastructure needs we would tackle. So on April the 25th, there was a preliminary list brought back to the board, and the board looked at it, and they asked us to, further define it, meet with them, and then decided to set the public workshops. And so that's a brief synopsis of how we've got to where we're at today. So as we move on, there's a few, points we want to hit this morning, and the purpose of why we're here. We want to talk about, what the regional transportation surtax is. We want to, what it can be used for. And then we want to provide some information as far as, what we're proposing to do with those dollars. So, and there's a number of categories that infrastructure improvements we've looked at, and we'll get into the meat of it as we go through our presentation. So we want to provide information to the citizens, regarding the county's project list and the proposed half-cent sales tax improvement plan we put together. Melissa will define what the proposed tax would be and the requirements of the ballot, and we'll get into that in a few minutes as far as, the referendum, and to discuss the proposed projects that would be funded with that. That's when we'll speak when Melissa gets through in a few minutes. And obviously, we want to answer any questions the public has, and certainly entertain any comments y'all would have. So we'll do that toward the end of the meeting. So just wanted to start with a few facts, tell you a little bit about Public Works. We have a little over 1,000 miles of road in the county, and it's just about a 60-40 split. There's about 60% of them paved, about 40% that's not paved if you round it off. And we provide routine maintenance to all those roads year round. We mow, we grade, we do the routine maintenance. And then, also there's a lot of bridges in the county. We have 209 bridges throughout the county. And then, we still have some wooden single lane bridges out there, we put in this plan to try to improve some of that. So So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa and let her go over the regional transportation surtax, and then we'll pick back up the public works projects.
Good morning. Good morning. Is it working now? Okay. Just to give you a little bit of information about what the Regional Transportation System surtax is, Florida statute provides for certain surtaxes that are allowed to be charged by county governments. If the statute does not provide for that surtax to be charged, it can't. It limits what counties can actually do. So the Regional Transportation System surtax is one that is out there that can be levied if it is approved by a majority of the county's electorate. It would fund development, construction, operation, maintenance of roads and bridges proposed by the county government. And that's one of the main reasons we're here today, because it is something that would have to be approved by the county's electorate. And so we want to just provide the information about the tax, about some needs that there are within the county that could potentially be funded by a tax if it were there. No decision has been made regarding putting this on the ballot. As we've been saying, this is simply to put information out there for the public. This tax is collected on items that are normally subject to sales tax, the ones that are defined in Florida statute. The exemptions are the normal exemptions: general groceries, medical supplies, certain services. Since this is, on the next slide, since this is a discretionary surtax that would be imposed by the county, it would only apply to the first $5,000 of each single item of tangible personal property purchased within the county. So that would mean that if you bought a $50 item, you'd pay 25 cents. But if you went and bought a $5,000 item, you'd pay $25. Since that is the cap, if you went out and bought a $25,000 or even a $100,000 item, if you went and say bought a large RV, you would still only pay $25 for that piece of the surtax. One of the things that can be done with this tax is it can be proposed for a certain time. It can sunset. What has been discussed in the board meetings right now has been possibly sunsetting this at the end of 5 years. That would be in the referendum language. It would be in the ordinance that would enact the tax, and it would sunset at that period. I know a lot of times people will think that once a tax gets in, there's no getting rid of it. But that is one where there is an ordinance and referendum language that statute would require that tax to sunset at the end of the period. It would be designated for a specific purpose as allowed by statute, which does limit it to roads and bridges. It would go into a trust fund for roads and bridges. One thing that we did want to point out about this tax is that a large portion of it, about 65%, would be paid by non-residents, which would be the tourists that are down here that are using the infrastructure every day. That they spend about 65% of the dollars spent in Walton County, so they would pay the lion's share of that tax. Also, decisions are made at the local level. It's not like the state is getting involved in what projects need to be funded. It would be at a county level where the county could decide where the priorities lie and fund those. And to go more into that, I will turn it back over to Buddy to talk about the actual improvements.
Thank you, Melissa. So the transportation improvement categories, we broke them up into 5 categories. One is dirt to pave. We have a capacity improvement project proposed, which is the Seagrove bypass. We have some bridge construction, resurfacing, pavement management, and milled asphalt rejuvenation. So we'll take a few minutes and look at each one of those different categories. So we'll start with the dirt to pave. So what we're proposing, and Melissa touched on it a minute ago, we put together a 5-year work program. So so as this, if this were to go forward, we've run it out 5 years and show how we're going to improve the currently unimproved roads in the county. And we've recognized almost 43 miles of road in the county, and these roads have the existing right-of-way there. There's no right-of-way acquisition period that we'd have to take. So we have the available right-of-way, so we could take these roads, immediately put them into a design process and move forward over the next 5 years on trying to pave out these 43 miles. These are, there's some of the roads around the Indian Woman, Chat Holly, down in the south end. There's a number of roads over there that are still unimproved, and then there's a number of roads out north of the bay that are unimproved. So you'll see it on the handout you have, and certainly entertain any questions toward the end. But that totaled basically the dirt to pave portion would be 43 miles of road getting paved at approximately $21 million. And so there's a few pictures of a typical dirt to pave process. There's a lot of benefits to residents and the county as well when we can pave these roads. It's better for the environment. You don't have as much runoff. It's managed runoff when it is. It makes a better neighborhood. Maintenance costs decrease. So there's benefits in trying to pave these roads. So that was an important part of this whole program. So we'll move to the next portion of the infrastructure plan, was the Seagrove bypass. And now the board has looked at this, and they've picked a preferred alignment, and Atkins, and Chance can correct me if I'm wrong, but Atkins is currently looking at that, and over the next couple of board meetings, they'll be bringing back some more information to the board there. There's still some work to be done on this with the stakeholders involved, but this is a very important project as far as, there's a huge need for this, and we recognized it in this program. So, we certainly want to commit to, if that can be worked through, making this happen over the next 5 years. And so that was a total of $12 million to try to accomplish that goal. So there's a picture there. That was one that come from the Atkins presentation when they presented to the board several months ago. That's just a generic alignment. Atkins is working on refining that, and they'll be bringing some more information back to the board on that. So the next category is bridge construction, and as I touched on earlier, the 209 bridges in the county, and in the state of Florida, I've seen some statistics. We have more bridges than a lot of counties do. I don't know that we're the county that's got the most, but we're up toward the top. We've got a lot of bridges, so we recognize that need. There's some bridges out there that need to be replaced, upgraded. We have bridge inspections done on each bridge every year. Every year, each bridge is inspected by a contractor, and we use that data combined with some other needs and come up with this list so that we could tackle the bridges that needed to be replaced, and that's how this list come about. And again, these bridges are countywide. There's a number of them north of the bay, and then there's a number of them south of the bay. They're scattered all over the county. And that was approximately $13.5 million over the next 5 years to be expended on bridge improvements. And there's some pictures on the slide there of a typical. This is a typical one-lane wooden bridge. We still have a number of these out here. If you've looked, this is up on Ingalls Road. We've already done this one, but you increase the bridge to 2 lanes. It's a concrete bridge, less maintenance, and it also provides a safer passage to and from the bridge. So that would be a typical upgrade on a lot of these bridges, and you'll see the same thing on the next slide of Crooked Creek. Those are 2 that we've done in the last year or so. All right, the next category is resurfacing and pavement management, and so basically what we've done on this one is, we have about 650 miles of paved road now, and it's important that we look at that and continue to provide maintenance to these paved road we've got. And the better we can provide maintenance in a uniform and thought out way to these roads, we stretch our dollars. So we want to put together a pavement conditioning index, match that with a pavement management plan. And the pavement conditioning index, what it does, it goes out and grades your road. So we would have, we'd have a contractor go out and basically perform a grade of all our county roads, and these would only be paved roads, and it would put a numerical number on the health of that road, and then you would marry that with a pavement management program so that there's different technologies out there, and the theory to that is that you can catch some of these roads on the front end that may be deteriorating. You can spend some money on them then, and you save them, from having to spend big dollars on them a little further down the road. So, so that's the theory behind the pavement management and PCI index. So what we had done, we'd looked to invest $6.3 million in that. The initial investment would be setting up the pavement management plan and the PCI, and then after that it would be resurfacing, crack seal, whatever. We would take that PCI index, the health index of our roads, determine the needs based on that, and then invest in the roads in several different aspects. So, and that was the biggest portion of the resurfacing pavement management plan. Now, there's a few roads that we had listed out. Those are roads that are in immediate need of some resurfacing attention, and we were looking to try to do those in next year's budget. So we lumped them in here to try to get some immediate work done on these roads. So altogether, the resurfacing pavement management was $7.5 million, and then the last portion of the infrastructure needs was milled asphalt rejuvenation. And I want to take a few minutes and explain this one. Back in 2013 and 14, y'all remember the flood events that took place in Walton County, and we had sustained a lot of damage countywide, and basically it was about $9 million worth of road damage took place throughout the county. So as we were negotiating with FEMA, they come in and helped us and reimbursed us to get the roads back to the condition they were prior. We had negotiated with FEMA to try to do something that would improve the longevity of some of these roads, because in the past we would just put dirt back on them and then it would be subject to wear out very quickly. So we negotiated with FEMA, and they allowed us to, instead of for them to pay dirt to go back on the road, pay for the dirt to go back on the road, they actually allowed us to put milled asphalt, recycled asphalt on a number of these roads. And the milled asphalt holds up a lot better. It's a better, for the most part, it's a better driving surface, and it greatly reduces the maintenance cost associated with the dirt roads. And there's a couple good slides there that show you what these were pre and what they were post. So now the county, through the help of FEMA and the state of Florida, we've invested a lot of money and time in these roads. So what we want to do is try to there's some products out there that we can try to go in and treat some of this milled asphalt. It helps it bind together better, provides a better road surface, and it increases that longevity of the investment we just made in these roads. So we thought that since there's been so much work, time, and effort put in these roads, we needed to invest some money in them to try to save them as long as we can save them. So that was the thought behind the asphalt rejuvenating products. There is an upfront cost, but you'll see it on the long-term returns when if we can get the roads to hold together better in the future. And so that's kind of a brief overview. Now one thing that is important to the county, and Commissioner Anderson had just tasked, and Chance is going to be working with the TDC and planning on pedestrian facilities. So we've had some people ask, well, what would you do with any extra money, after you've done these projects, if there were any monies that were extra? The pedestrian facilities, you didn't see a line item in there, but but that's important. Chance is going to be working on that with the stakeholders to try to come up with a multi-use master plan. So we just wanted to add that slide to let the public know that this is an important thing, that we would like to see some funds be spent there, if there's some available funding in this program. So with that being said, we've pretty much covered the slideshow. What I would like to I'm sorry. Let's back up to total projected revenue. So we're, what all we just talked about, each category, we're anticipating it being around $60 million and, over the next 5 years, roughly $12 million a year. So, so what we would, if you turn on the last slide there, it's, we appreciate the public being here, and we certainly entertain any comments or questions that anybody may have. There's been a email address set up. It's halfcent@co.walton.fl.us, and that's the Public Works number there. So if anybody has any questions, wants to make any comments, if they'll contact us or email us, we'll take those comments, consider them, and then, obviously pass that information to the Board of County Commissioners. So with that being said, that concludes our presentation, and we would certainly entertain any questions anyone has. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sir, let me have a copy of this because we're streaming the meeting, so we'll make sure everybody can read.
On all of these, the issue that immediately arises to attention is whether or not an MSTU or an MSBU should be used rather than a half-cent sales tax. And you want to take any kind of time to address that issue as to why this should be considered instead of an MSBU?
We had not looked at an MSTU simply because the projects are so varied in so many different parts of the county. An MSTU seems more like it would be more localized to me. It would be more for specific sets of projects. So I don't think we could just do one MSTU for it. We would have to do separate MSTUs. As a funding stream, this would allow the flexibility to do various projects throughout the whole program. Did you have any other questions, any more information you would like about the MSTUs?
Well, I think that actually kind of goes right to the point. The idea is that some of these projects are very localized, and you're using a general sales tax to use these funds to go and make those improvements. Why isn't it more appropriate to use a more localized funding mechanism, such as an MSBU, to make these kinds of improvements that aren't going to benefit the general public? So I think that's the real question. Long as I've got you, another question in terms of, it was, I believe, item 4, your resurfacing and pavement management. You talked about the fact that this is going to sunset, you believe, in 5 years.
Right.
But that's not a program that's going to sunset. What are you going to use alternatively to fund that program if indeed this sunsets in 5 years?
Yes, sir. That's a very good question. Right now, if you look at that, we have a $1.5 million set to invest in that program yearly. That's basically double what we're investing in it now. So as we put that pavement management plan together, and we would have to hire a consultant to do that for us. Basically, we would say, in the next 4 years, we're going to have $1.5 million to spend on this pavement management. So put us together a plan that we can, get the best investment that we can get out of the dollars we're spending to do the best we can for our pavement management. In year 5, 6, 7, that's an unknown at this time. Right now, we're spending about $750,000 a year. And that's about right on resurfacing. So if this this would sunset in 5 years, we go back to the $750,000 a year, we would build that into the pavement management plan. But we would have a roadmap of where the needs are and where we're going, you know, as far as trying to meet those needs and extending those tax dollars and getting the most use out of them as we can.
In terms of the additional projects for any surplus funding above the 60 million that's been collected, you mentioned that pedestrian projects could be a part of that plan. Is there a project list identified for what those projects might be? And if so, where can that be accessed?
Okay. I reckon the best answer for that now is there's not a formalized master plan at this time. Now, again, Commissioner Anderson, I think, brought up at the last board meeting to let's formalize a master plan of these pedestrian facilities and where the needs are. And, you know, so that there's not one now, but it's being worked on now, and hopefully over the next several months, we get that back to the board and let the board look at that and adopt it. And then at that point, it would be there for investment in.
And I do want to point out, since you had referenced the 60 million, we anticipate the sales tax, right now we're estimating it would collect about 50 million. What we've been tasked to do is put this together and assume that the tax dollars would not defray any of the current funding going to public works. It would supplement it. So we're putting the current capital funding of $10 million over 5 years, in addition to the 50 million for the sales tax. So that's where the 60, I just want to make sure that that's where the 60 came from. It's the 50 and the 10.
Buddy, when you
Yes,
were
ma'am.
giving your presentation, the part 4 on resurfacing and pavement management, you quoted two numbers, 6.3 million and 7.5. I'm just a little bit confused.
Okay. Let me get over there to that. Let me get to it. Okay, I'm sorry, Lisa. Let me clarify that. So the resurface and pavement management piece of this is a total of 7.5 million. The pavement conditioning index and the pavement management would be 6.3 million of that. Of that 6.3, approximately we're figuring about 300,000 go to the PCI and the pavement management plan, and then that other 6 million over the next 4 years be spent on actual resurfacing or pavement management programs to either resurface or improve or maintain the paved roads that we currently have. Okay.
I'm going to put out a disclaimer that I do not know enough about this topic to ask an educated question, so I'm going to try to walk myself and y'all through it.
Absolutely.
The landfill surplus revenues that we put towards road and bridge projects, what would be the plan for that surplus if this gets approved, if the half-cent gets approved? Are there projects that surplus would continue to fund that are outside of this list? Explain a little bit of that, because that's a question that we've had at a government affairs level.
That goes back to what I was pointing out before about the 50 billion plus the 10. The current public works budget is funded from that landfill surplus. We're assuming that this tax revenue would be just for these capital projects, so it would not touch the operations and maintenance, the regular work that's done by public works that landfill money is used for. So it would be the same, the uses of that landfill surplus would be the same that they are today.
It would not be allocated elsewhere.
Is there any other questions? Just like to let everyone know that the presentation you just seen, and we talked about, Lewis will be putting it on the county website after we have another workshop up in Defuniak, so he'll be putting this on the county website. There's some handouts up here that go into a little greater detail as far as, you know, we've skimmed over these you know, we've talked basically about each category, but there's some further information up here on the as you look at the dirt to pave, the phasing, you know, it just says phases there. There's some additional information up here that actually spells out the roads along with the milled asphalt. So y'all are welcome to take some of this with you. And like I said, the half cent at co.walton.fl.us. If y'all have any comments, y'all feel free to email us or give us a call.
One other quick question. Just in terms of timing, I know initially we were looking at a potential August vote on this for general election. Is that still the goal?
The board has not taken the issue back up, so it's really going to depend on the timing of them taking the issue back up. We would run into an issue of you have to have it advertised for so long, so I would say that I wouldn't want to speak for them. They would really have to rush to try to make that, but I don't think that August would be the date.
All right, thank y'all very much.